Let's talk about aerospace. AS9100 Revision D will most likely be released in October 2016, we think, maybe. We'll find out a little bit. A little bit later, actually, than was expected. And as anticipated, it borrows from or is aligned with ISO 9001 2015, the new release of ISO 9001. And if you work in the aerospace industry, you might be curious as to what is in Rev D of AS9100. Well, that was the topic of one of our stories this week, Changes and Implementation Strategies for AS9100 Revision D by Chad Kymal. And wouldn't you just know it, Chad is with us on the show today to talk a bit about what some of these changes will mean for those currently holding AS9100 certificates. Hi, Chad.
Hi, Dirk. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Great.
Well, let's get the release date kind of figured out somewhat, maybe. We had expected AS9100 to be released in April, and then we were thinking May, and now we're not sure when the release date is. Can you tell us when the release date is?
Yeah, Dirk, the standard is ready. It's ready to be, launched. However, the international, different countries in the world who are all members of IAQG felt it was unfair for the English version to come out so much sooner than the translated international versions, that everybody's agreed to hold it off till about earliest we could expect it is probably mid-September, latest is beginning of October. So that's the sort of the launch date now that's being replanned.
So Chad, this is Mike. Let me ask this question for you. What is the biggest change between AS9100 Revision C and AS9100 Revision D?
Great question, Mike. Mike, I'd succinctly put it as three major things. The first one, I'll just say it like this. It's product safety, counterfeit parts, and human factors coming in to the AS9100 D, which is as a delta. But really, the big stories are, there's about 15 different standards that the AS9100 suggests that we integrate back as we implement AS9100 D, and to different clauses that really could use it. However, it's not mandated, it's recommended. The one Omnex would really like to recommend to everyone is the aerospace APQP and PPAP. It is really being pushed by most of the OEMs and large tier ones, and would behoove everyone to take a look at that AS9145 standard and implement that. We have been helping a number of different organizations right now. Actually, since about 2000, well, about 6-7 years, we've been helping companies, implement this, and now it has become a standard.
And what about
the third, of course,
what about
sorry about that, Mike. Yeah, go ahead.
What about risk-based thinking? Is risk-based thinking, which obviously was so prevalent and kind of the big thing in ISO 9001 2015, is that working its way into Rev D of AS9100?
This is if you look at AS9100C, it always had risk in it, but it was product realization risk, and I know for the longest time, the aerospace folks thought they already had risk in it. So, sometime last year, the realization came in that yes, there is a big delta with risk-based thinking, and things like 6.1, which is planning risk, is not there in AS9100 before this. So, the third point I'll make from the deltas, the big change, of course, is a high-level structure and risk-based thinking. So, the interested party expectations, context, risk-based thinking, planning and risk, risk and customer satisfaction, huge deltas, all of which will have to be, handled by the aerospace companies.
Okay, and is there going to be some sort of training available for aerospace companies to understand what these differences are and how to implement them?
So, and you can expect third-party auditors to get trained. When the standard gets launched in October or September, there will be third-party auditors getting trained. Omnex is starting to train people right now. You can call it a FDIS, or it's actually the balloted standard, which I said is, in English, we're already starting to launch that training and also AS9145 training globally, Europe, USA, Asia, to help aerospace companies, get there as fast as they can, because the transition deadlines are looming.
Oh, and what are some of these key dates?
In both these cases, I'll tell you more about, the deltas in the webinar we're doing next week, and also the dates. I'll just succinctly put in that the dates are the same as the ISO 9001 2015 dates. That's really why, you're seeing, instead of a 3-year deadline, suddenly we have a 2-year deadline, and the deadline by which you cannot audit AS9100 C anymore is also right around the corner, also following the ISO 9001 deadline.
So are those dates easy to find? I mean, I'm assuming they could just look up dates on ISO 9001
I don't have it
2015.
readily handy right now, but I'll share that in the webinar.
Okay, yep. And by the way, just the webinar Chad's talking about is next week we have a webinar, myself and Chad. It's called Changes and Implementation Strategies for AS9100 Revision D, and that's actually next Tuesday, June 7th, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And actually, why don't you just give us a brief overview of what you're going to cover in that webinar, Chad?
So definitely, I'm going to go in detail, talk about all the additional requirements that were in AS9100C from ISO 9001, where they moved to in this standard. How are the shells dispersed? Most importantly, though, there are a lot of different strategies we can take, including, as I mentioned to you, do we put in all the other standards? Do we take an AS9145? And also, very importantly, as you know, very near and dear to my heart, and I'll say this, it's a requirement of the standards of the high-level structure that top management integrate in the requirements of AS9100 and 14001 into the business processes of the organization. So I've been telling people, de facto, the standard is asking for integrated management systems. Of course, it's a great strategy because it saves money, it saves time, it saves auditing time. So a little preview of what's yet to come, Mike.
All right. Well, Chad, thank you. That's Chad Kymal, CTO and founder of Omnex, and the presenter at next week's webinar on AS9100 on Tuesday, June 7th. So be sure, if you're in aerospace and are looking at acquiring AS9100 or already have it, then you're going to want to tune into that webinar. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Thanks, Chad. We'll see you on Tuesday.
All right.
Good stuff.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.